Kia ora, hello and welcome along to the Music 101 interview podcast. I'm Charlotte Ryan. Now, how do you interview rising star Indy Yelich without putting too much emphasis on her sister Lorde? That question was on my mind when I phoned Indy to talk about her brand new single, East Coast. And it turns out, though, I didn't need to worry. There's so much to talk about. In our short conversation you'll hear, Indy Yelich was happy to talk about her life, the hard stuff, and the very fun stuff.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hello, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I'm excited to talk to you in New York City because I love New York City. Can you tell me right now where you are?
Yeah, I am in my apartment in the East Village. I'm in my bedroom and there's a little fire escape and I can just see people walking past and I can see birds that I'm feeding sitting on my fire escape and a very blue sky.
Is it kosher to feed the birds, or are people like, don't feed the birds because then they'll come?
Maybe not so kosher, but the birds I feed, I've been feeding for 3 years straight, and I always give them really healthy food. So I don't know. I mean, I like it. I mean, cute and they're sweet.
Oh, I love that. When you were 18, you moved from New Zealand and you moved to LA, but now you live in New York. What attracted you to New York City?
New York is a very walkable city. It's got a lot of character in ways that I don't feel like a lot of cities do. I love the spontaneity. I love the change of seasons. And honestly, a lot of my Kiwi best friends live in New York as well. So that really helps when I'm missing home.
It seems like there's a really cool New Zealand music scene there because Kimbra's in New York, I think, and Harper, you. Is it quite cool?
Yeah, it's awesome. I actually spend a lot more time in the music scene in LA just because that's where I songwrite and produce. And so a lot of my experiences are more in California.
Ah. Do you still go to California to write and record?
I always go to California to write and record. I just live in New York because I love it. People, I think, is probably not the best for my career, but I just love it. So I'm always on a plane. It's just way more of a music community, songwriters, producers. I'm always doing sessions there. You really meet people by word of mouth or house parties. So it's kind of nice to separate the two, actually.
Have you been to some pretty cool house parties then?
Oh, for sure. I've been to a fair few.
Congratulations on your new single called East Coast. Has this song been a long time coming?
Well, I wrote it a year ago. It just kind of came out one day. I think the theme, was a long time coming. The song's really an ode to saying goodbye to something that no longer serves you, like a relationship. And I just want it to feel really cathartic and free.
I've picked up this as a breakup song, but I feel like the song has such a sense of freedom about it, which I love. Mm-hmm. Before I talk to you about sort of getting to that place, can you tell me a little bit more about the song? Because from what I understand by seeing your social media, it was quite a toxic relationship that you were in.
Yeah, just more of an on and off relationship that lasted a few years, and he was a bit older than me.
Was it a hard thing to recognise that it wasn't healthy when you were in the relationship?
Definitely. I mean, I had this moment when I was driving down the Pacific Coast Highway in LA, and my two best friends who are Kiwi were in the front seat, and I was in the back seat, and I was just looking at my phone, and I was having this text essay argument with someone, and I just, at that moment, the sun was beautiful in the ocean and I wasn't present there. And I just wanted to get my phone and throw it out the window and just never think of it again. So I think it was a very specific moment. And I went to the studio the next day with half of the song already written because it was just begging to come out. This trying to be free and get this very emotional, hard thing to understand,
It must have been quite intense sort of going into the writing room or the writing, into the studio and sort of be vulnerable to talk about this sort of stuff. Are you better at that now? Because I understand that songwriting, you've got to be quite vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you're writing about your real life. You're writing about everyone around you. It's very hard. But I think that because I wrote 2 poetry books, I feel like the songwriting is a lot easier for me. And I honestly think it's the only way I make sense of things. Mm-hmm. Writing songs is also writing about a feeling. East Coast I was trying to nail a feeling. Sometimes it's not even up to me. It's up to the song and how I can make that vision and that feeling come to life. So sometimes it's like this creative thing that takes a hold of me and I don't really even have much of a say. It just happens, I guess.
Oh my gosh, I love it when songwriters tell me that. It seems like magic.
Yeah. It really is. It's very cathartic to get out a feeling that you were searching for. And sometimes that's the only way.
Yeah. Are you still writing poetry? Is that sort of a daily thing for you?
Yeah, definitely. Songwriting is a lot more specific, but I write poems in order to get the lyrics. So I'll free write for an hour before every studio session, and then I come in with just a bunch of jumble of words, a few poems, and then I fine tune them on the piano with my songwriter. So yeah, always. That's yeah.
And do you play the piano?
Yeah, I do. I taught
Ah,
myself during COVID.
did you?
Yeah,
Well
I
done.
did.
Did it come quite naturally?
Yeah, it did. I played guitar, but I was actually sitting at my sister's piano, and I just wrote all of the keys down on like sticky tape. So for like months, it was just like sticky tape on the piano keys, so I could see what they were.
How did your sister feel about you putting sticky tape on her piano?
Oh, she didn't mind.
Oh, good.
She did not mind.
Oh, good, good, good. This interview is totally focused on you, of course, but I guess we sort of have to acknowledge your sister. But I wondered, yeah, where you get your music inspiration?
Oh, where did I get it? Honestly, I get my music inspiration from what's current, what I grew up with, especially with like my parents' dinner parties. So right now I've been really wild for inspiration. I've been listening to a lot of like Fleetwood Mac, Chapel Roan, Jungle, Olivia Rodrigo. So it's a mix of old and new, honestly.
And when you write, can you tell us any songwriters that you write with? Would there be any that we know, or do you ever write with Ella, your sister?
We're pretty separate, but I will always send her my music when I'm ready for people to fully hear it, just because her opinion's really important to me. But yeah, some of the songwriters that I've been working with, let me think. Well, I wrote Hometown with Casey Smith, who is signed to Ryan Tedder, and she wrote a lot of the Olivia Rodrigo stuff. And then I've got some music that I've been loving that I just wrote recently with my friend Annie, and she wrote on the Chapel Roan album. So it was quite amazing. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing how many opportunities you have living in New York City or living in America, because we just wouldn't have those opportunities here in New Zealand, would we?
I don't know. I think I had to be in Aotearoa to even be in America at all. I think the way I was raised, there was creativity flowing out of the walls. So I don't know. I think that Aotearoa, especially like songwriters here, have a very definitive voice. And I actually think that my voice only developed because I lived in New Zealand, honestly.
Yeah. How often do you come back to New Zealand?
Once a year, twice a year. I come back for a few weeks at a time, especially in summer. I was there for 3 weeks in January.
But the East Coast is your home for now.
I just think that I think New York specifically is where I feel like a strong sense of self, and especially my young adult self. Yeah, definitely.
So tell me, this new single, East Coast, going back to that, is it from a forthcoming EP or album?
All I can say is it's part of a forthcoming project. Oh, right now I'm just living in this little East Coast world, and I feel like when the song's out, then I'll finally be able to breathe and focus on something else. But for the past few months, this has kind of just been such a big process to get it out. So it's like one thing at a time, really.
Yeah.
Then on to next.
Yeah, of course. And are you feeling at peace with the relationship? Because it's funny going into interviews and being asked about, what the song's about.
Oh, absolutely not. No, definitely not. I think that if anything stirs up feelings, because when you spend so many years of your life with someone that you love so deeply, and then it comes to an end and you're walking around the city and everything still reminds them of you, sometimes the end of a relationship, there isn't peace. It's just how it has to go. And you have to lose that part to become a new person. And it's heartbreaking. And that's really what I wanted to capture. But only thing that really helps is time. I think that there can never really be peace. Peace has to come from within yourself when something like that ends. The sad thing is you just can't really do a thing about it. You just have to kind of live with those feelings and learn to find some meaning in them, honestly. I think it took me at least 6 months to realize, I actually love sleeping in my own bed. I love waking up alone. Once the tragedy and the loss kind of simmers down a bit, then there's space for positive feelings. But you sadly just have to feel it. it's agony until one day it's not as agony, I guess.
Indy, this is quite random, but I wanted to ask what you were like as a younger child. Like, were you quite a star as a young child? Did you love performing?
Always did. I was Ursula the Sea Witch in my year 5, year 6 play of The Little Mermaid. I was a very loud child. I was definitely the loudest, very cheeky. Yeah, I'm honestly still like this, just a little bit more refined. So I really feel like my personality was always just, as they said in my family group chat today, Indy as a kid was bouncing off the walls, bouncing off the chairs.
So do you think your mum always knew you'd do some sort of performance, or your parents would know you'd do some sort of artistic thing?
Always, yes.
Have you found it easy to get into the music industry? I mean, obviously you've got massive contacts within the family, but have you found it quite straightforward to sort of get into the music industry?
No, not straightforward. I think also, obviously, I'm so lucky to have that connection. I just think your voice has to stand out on its own. I don't think it's easy. I just think it's a journey. I think that, if anything, it took me a few years to figure out like my voice and believing that there's one of me and that my voice is unique. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was just I think honestly, a lot of it was who I met at parties and how I chatted I met my manager at a Grammy after party, and I mentioned to him that I like to sing, and here we are 6 years later, and he's still my manager.
Oh, amazing. But also amazing you went to a Grammy after party.
I love that kind of thing. I love meeting people. I love hearing people's stories. So I've never felt really shy in that aspect. I've always been very social. So
Yeah. Someone told me, but did you do something with Billy Ray Cyrus?
Oh, but no. I didn't do anything with him, but we were at, where was this? Maybe it was the VMAs. I sat next to him. I was sitting next to him and my sister, and I just spoke to him for like 2 hours, and it was awesome. And we just had this like crazy conversation about life and like poetry and everything. And I always remember that. It was very strange. I was probably 19.
Yeah, you must find yourself in all sorts of sort of pinch me moment parties or whatever.
Definitely. But I think it's also like people are people. And I always think that people's favorite subjects is themselves. So if you ask enough questions, like people are always a lot more open, I guess.
I'm going to finish the interview by going into your new single and have fun in New York City. What are you going to do this weekend? It's Matariki in New Zealand this weekend.
I know. I am going to go to a 70s dive bar. I'm going to drink a gin gimlet on the rocks, and I'm going to dance with my girlfriends. That is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on some really cute heels and honestly just relax because I've worked really hard. So have a few drinks and listen to Steely Dan, probably.
Congratulations again on the single, and it's been so lovely to talk, and I look forward to seeing what's next.
Thanks so much, Charlotte.
That wraps up another Music 101 interview podcast. I was speaking with Indy. If you look up her music online, it's just INDY. But, of course, she's Indy Yelich, younger sister of Lorde. And you must go listen to her brand new single now, East Coast. Thanks for listening to this Music 101 podcast. Make sure you follow us, share us with your friends, and tune in next time for another Music 101 interview.